The year was 2147, and Earth had never felt so peaceful. For the first time in history, humanity stood united under one global government. Wars were a thing of the past, replaced by scientific breakthroughs and technological marvels that made life easier for everyone. People lived in sprawling cities powered by clean energy, traveled to space as tourists, and dreamed of colonizing other planets. But beyond the stars, something sinister loomed, something no one saw coming. Dr. Elena Vasquez stared at her monitor aboard the Lunar Research Station, her brow furrowed with concern. She had spent years studying cosmic phenomena, but what she saw now didn't match anything in her database. Strange energy signatures were appearing near Saturn's orbit, flickering like ghostly whispers against the void of space. At first, she thought it might be a glitch or some leftover debris from an old satellite. But when the readings grew stronger each day, doubt crept into her mind. "Command, I need you to take this seriously," Elena said over the comms link, her voice firm but tinged with frustration. "These aren't natural occurrences. Something, or someone, is out there." On the other end, Commander Harris sighed audibly. "Dr. Vasquez, we've been through this. Your theories are intriguing, but we can't justify sounding alarms based on anomalies. We have bigger priorities down here." Elena clenched her fists. She hated being dismissed, especially when her instincts screamed danger. Still, she returned to her work, analyzing every byte of data pouring in from the station's sensors. Hours passed before she noticed something chilling, a series of black voids forming in Earth's upper atmosphere. They looked like holes punched into reality itself, swallowing light and leaving only emptiness behind. Then came the reports. Satellites began failing one after another, their signals cutting off without warning. Power grids faltered in remote regions, plunging towns into darkness. Panic spread quickly as news outlets speculated about solar flares or cyber attacks. No one suspected the truth, not yet. It happened suddenly. One moment, the sky above New York City was clear. The next, it erupted in fire. A massive object descended from the heavens, its sleek metallic surface glinting ominously in the sunlight. Before anyone could react, beams of concentrated energy lashed out, obliterating skyscrapers and turning streets into craters. Similar attacks struck London, Tokyo, and Mumbai within minutes. Captain Marcus Kane watched the chaos unfold from his cockpit high above Earth. As a decorated fighter pilot, he trained for countless scenarios. But nothing prepared him for this. His squadron scrambled to intercept the invaders, their jets roaring toward the monstrous vessel hovering over Los Angeles. "Stay sharp," Marcus barked into his headset. "We don't know what these things are, but we're not letting them win." The battle was short and brutal. Human weapons bounced harmlessly off the alien ship's shimmering shields. Missiles exploded midair, useless against technology far beyond human comprehension. Within moments, half of Marcus's team was gone, vaporized by counterattacks faster than lightning. But then, luck, or skill, turned in their favor. During a desperate strafing run, Marcus fired a prototype plasma cannon mounted on his jet. The shot connected, tearing through the shield and damaging a smaller escort craft nearby. It spiraled out of control, crashing into the Pacific Ocean. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had scored a victory. Back at the lunar station, Elena received updates about the downed ship. Her heart raced as she realized the implications. If they could study it, they might uncover the secrets of their attackers, and perhaps find a way to fight back. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. The aliens hadn't expected resistance. Now, Earth wasn't just another target. It was a challenge they couldn't ignore. And humanity. Humanity would rise to meet them. The world was in chaos. The alien attack had come without warning, and humanity's defenses crumbled like sandcastles against a tsunami. Cities burned, oceans boiled from the heat of energy blasts, and millions perished in an instant. The invaders, later identified as the Vorthik, were relentless. Their massive mothership loomed over Earth like a dark omen, while smaller ships darted across the skies, raining destruction on everything below. Captain Marcus Kane landed his battered fighter jet at what remained of Edwards Air Force Base. His hands trembled as he climbed out of the cockpit, his face streaked with soot and sweat. The once bustling military hub was now a graveyard of twisted metal and shattered dreams. Pilots and ground crew huddled together, their faces pale with shock. "They're unstoppable," muttered Lieutenant Harris, one of Marcus's surviving wingmen. "We hit them with everything we've got, and it didn't even scratch them." Marcus clenched his jaw. He wanted to scream, to rage against the unfairness of it all. But there was no time for despair. Humanity needed answers, and fast. Meanwhile, Dr. Elena Vasquez worked feverishly aboard the Lunar Research Station. News of the downed Vorthik ship had reached her, and she immediately assembled a team to retrieve it. The wreckage lay submerged deep in the Pacific Ocean, its alien technology still intact despite the impact. If they could recover it, they might finally understand who, or what, they were fighting. "Dr. Vasquez, are you sure this is safe?" asked Dr. Raj Patel, one of her colleagues, as they boarded a submersible craft designed for deep-sea exploration. "No," Elena admitted bluntly. "But do we have a choice? Every second we waste gives them more time to destroy us." The descent into the ocean's depths felt like entering another world. The water grew darker, colder, until only the submersible's lights pierced the abyss. Finally, they spotted it, a jagged shard of alien metal jutting from the seabed. It pulsed faintly, as though alive. Elena's heart raced as she examined the ship's exterior through the submersible's cameras. Its surface shimmered with patterns that shifted and changed, almost hypnotically. She activated a robotic arm to collect samples, but the moment the claw touched the hull, the ship emitted a low hum. "It's reacting," Raj exclaimed, his voice tinged with panic. Before anyone could react, the submersible's systems went haywire. Alarms blared, and the craft shook violently. For a terrifying moment, Elena thought the Vorthik ship might self-destruct. But just as suddenly as it began, the shaking stopped. Back at the surface, Elena and her team analyzed the data they'd gathered. What they discovered was both fascinating and horrifying. The Vorthik weren't just machines or soldiers. They were part of a hive mind, a collective consciousness linked by an intricate neural network. This explained why their movements were so coordinated, why their attacks seemed almost telepathic. "This changes everything," Elena said during an emergency video conference with Earth's leaders. "If we can disrupt their neural network, we might be able to cripple their entire operation." Her words sparked hope, but also debate. Some argued for immediate action, while others cautioned against rushing into another disaster. Tensions flared when General Thompson, a grizzled veteran known for his aggressive tactics, demanded control of the recovered technology. "We need to strike back now," he barked, slamming his fist on the table. "Every minute we wait, more people die." Elena shook her head firmly. "And every reckless move gets more of our people killed. We need precision, not brute force." As the arguments raged, Marcus listened silently. He knew firsthand how devastating the Vorthik were. Yet he also understood that humanity couldn't win with brute strength alone. They needed strategy and courage. That night, Marcus stood under the stars, staring at the black voids still hovering menacingly in the sky. Somewhere beyond those portals lay the enemy's stronghold. If humanity stood any chance of survival, they would have to take the fight to them. But first, they had to survive long enough to try. And that was far from guaranteed. The downed Vorthik ship was humanity's lifeline, a fragile thread of hope in an ocean of despair. Housed in a secure underground facility beneath the Nevada desert, the wreckage became the center of frantic research efforts. Scientists from around the world worked tirelessly, their eyes bloodshot and hands trembling with exhaustion. Among them was Dr. Elena Vasquez, whose mind raced faster than ever before. "This isn't just a machine," She muttered to herself as she examined a fragment of the alien hull under a microscope. It's alive. The material pulsed faintly, responding to her touch as though it could sense her presence. She ran tests, analyzing its composition and behavior. The results were baffling. It wasn't metal or plastic, but something entirely new, a hybrid of organic tissue and advanced nanotechnology. Every piece seemed connected to the hive mind, even after being separated from the main ship. Alina shared her findings with Marcus during one of their late-night strategy meetings. The two had formed an unlikely partnership, bound by their shared determination to save Earth. While Marcus focused on rallying survivors and organizing resistance efforts, Alina dove deeper into unraveling the mysteries of the Vorthic tech. If we can disrupt their neural network, Alina explained, pointing to a holographic diagram of the alien system, we might be able to sever their connection to the mothership. Without coordination, their forces will fall apart. Marcus nodded thoughtfully. How long until we have something usable? That's the problem, Alina admitted, rubbing her temples. We're dealing with technology centuries ahead of ours. Even reverse engineering basic components takes time we don't have. Despite the challenges, progress came in small victories. One breakthrough came when Alina discovered that the neural network operated on specific frequency waves. By replicating those frequencies, they theorized they could create interference, effectively jamming the hive mind signals. But building a device capable of doing so required resources and sacrifices. Factories once used for civilian purposes were repurposed overnight to produce experimental weapons. Engineers scavenged parts from abandoned satellites and old military equipment. Volunteers risked their lives to gather materials from irradiated war zones. Amidst the chaos, tensions simmered. General Thompson continued pushing for immediate retaliation, arguing that delay only gave the Vorthic more time to regroup. His frustration boiled over when he ordered a preemptive strike without consulting the scientific team. General, wait. Marcus shouted, storming into the command center where Thompson stood hunched over a tactical map. We're not ready for this. We'll lose everything if you rush in blind. Thompson glared at him. And what would you know about winning, Captain? You've seen what happens when we sit back and do nothing. I'm not letting those monsters wipe us out while we tinker with scraps. The argument ended abruptly when news arrived of the strike's failure. A squadron of drones sent to attack the Vorthic fleet was obliterated within minutes, leaving Earth's already depleted forces weaker than ever. Humiliated but chastened, Thompson reluctantly agreed to follow Alina's lead. Fine, he growled. But make it quick. People are dying out there. Back at the lab, Alina felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. She knew failure wasn't an option, not when billions of lives depended on her success. Late into the night, she worked alongside her team, piecing together fragments of alien tech and integrating them into human designs. Finally, after weeks of sleepless nights, they completed a prototype weapon, a compact device capable of emitting targeted frequency bursts. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. When Marcus saw it for the first time, his eyes widened with cautious optimism. Will it work? He asked quietly. Alina hesitated, then met his gaze. I don't know, but it's the best shot we've got. As the first rays of dawn filtered through the facility's reinforced windows, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was standing on the edge of a precipice. If they succeeded, they might turn the tide of the war. If they failed, he didn't let himself finish the thought. Instead, he turned to Alina and gave her a firm nod. Then let's make sure it does. Together, they prepared for the next phase of the fight, a battle that would test not just their ingenuity, but their courage. With the prototype weapon ready, humanity shifted its strategy. Conventional battles had proven futile against the Vorthic's overwhelming power, so a new approach was born. Guerrilla warfare. Small, agile teams armed with reverse-engineered alien tech launched hit-and-run missions to disrupt the invaders' supply lines and gather intelligence. These operations were risky, but they offered hope in a war where victory seemed impossible. Captain Marcus Kane led one such team. His squadron consisted of pilots who had survived earlier skirmishes, engineers skilled in improvisation, and even civilians brave enough to join the fight. Their mission: infiltrate a cluster of Vorthic drones orbiting Earth's moon and sabotage their refueling stations. Success would weaken the enemy fleet, buying precious time for Alina's team to refine the neural disruptor weapon. "We're not here to win," Marcus reminded his crew before departure. "We're here to survive and make them bleed." The operation began under cover of darkness. Repurposed mining drones, now equipped with stolen Vorthic shielding technology, served as both transport and decoy. The plan was simple yet daring: lure the drones into attacking the decoys, while Marcus's team slipped past their defenses. Inside her lab, Alina monitored the mission remotely, her heart pounding with every update. She had designed portable EMP devices capable of temporarily disabling Vorthic systems, giving the team brief windows of opportunity. But she knew these moments wouldn't last long. The aliens adapted quickly. As Marcus guided his ship through the debris field near the moon, tension crackled among his crew. Alarms blared as enemy drones detected their presence, swarming toward the decoys like predators hunting prey. For a moment, it seemed the plan might fail. Then, just as Marcus had hoped, the drones turned their attention away from the real target. "Now," Marcus shouted, signaling his team to move. They descended onto the refueling station, planting explosives rigged with EMP charges. The work was painstaking. One wrong move could trigger an alert. Sweat dripped down Marcus's face as he connected the final detonator. Suddenly, a shrill alarm pierced the silence. They'd been spotted. "Fall back," Marcus ordered, firing his thrusters to retreat. Behind him, explosions lit up the void of space, sending shockwaves rippling through the drone cluster. Dozens of Vorthic ships spiraled out of control, their fuel reserves obliterated. But the victory came at a cost. One of Marcus's crew members, Lieutenant Harper, stayed behind to ensure the charges detonated properly. Her final transmission echoed in everyone's ears: "Tell my family I didn't run this time." Back on Earth, Alina struggled with guilt. Each success brought relief, but each loss felt heavier than the last. Still, the data collected during these raids proved invaluable. Fragments of intercepted communications revealed chilling details about the Vorthic's ultimate plan: terraforming Earth by triggering volcanic eruptions worldwide. If successful, billions more would perish, and the planet would become uninhabitable for centuries. "This can't happen," Alina whispered to herself late one night, staring at the holographic map of Earth projected above her desk. She traced the locations marked as potential eruption points: Yellowstone, Mount Fuji, Krakatoa. All were within range of the Vorthic's kinetic bombardments. Her breakthrough came unexpectedly. While analyzing encrypted signals recovered during Marcus's raid, she discovered coordinates leading to the Vorthic command center orbiting Jupiter. It was heavily guarded, a fortress floating in the cold vastness of space. Destroying it would sever the hive mind's connection to the invasion force, leaving the remaining ships disorganized and vulnerable. Alina presented her findings to Marcus and General Thompson. The room fell silent as she outlined the risks. Reaching the command center meant navigating through layers of enemy patrols and surviving long enough to deploy the neural disruptor weapon. "It's suicide," Thompson growled, slamming his fist on the table. "No," Marcus said firmly, meeting the general's glare. "It's our only chance." Alina nodded. "If we don't try, Earth won't stand another week." For the first time, there was no argument. Humanity had no choice but to take the fight to the heart of the Vorthic Empire. As plans were drawn and preparations began, Marcus looked at the faces of his team. Fear lingered in their eyes, but so did determination. The plan to assault the Vorthic command center orbiting Jupiter was audacious, bordering on reckless. Yet, as humanity's last hope, it carried a weight that silenced even the most skeptical voices. The mission required not just courage but sacrifice, qualities Marcus Kane and his team had proven time and again. But this time, The stakes were higher than ever. In the days leading up to the operation, tensions ran high. Elena Vasquez worked tirelessly to refine the neural disruptor weapon, ensuring it could withstand the intense conditions of space and deliver a crippling blow to the Vorthic hive mind. Her hands trembled as she soldered delicate circuits late into the night, her mind haunted by visions of failure. What if the weapon malfunctioned? What if their efforts only delayed the inevitable? "You're pushing yourself too hard," Dr. Raj Patel said one evening, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You won't do anyone any good if you collapse before we launch." Elena shook her head, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. "If I don't get this right, none of us will matter anyway." Meanwhile, Marcus prepared his crew for what might be their final battle. He gathered them in a dimly lit briefing room aboard the flagship Aegis, a massive carrier ship retrofitted with scavenged alien tech. Maps of the Vorthic stronghold floated holographically above the table, highlighting the dense web of defensive patrols surrounding the command center. "This isn't going to be easy," Marcus began, his tone grim but steady. "We'll face overwhelming odds, and not all of us will make it back. But if we succeed, we give Earth a fighting chance." He paused, looking each member of his team in the eye. Among them was Samira, a teenage hacker who had joined the resistance after losing her family to the invasion. Her skills had proven invaluable in decoding Vorthic communications, and though she was young, her resolve matched that of seasoned soldiers. "I'm ready," Samira said firmly when Marcus asked if she was prepared for what lay ahead. Marcus nodded, pride swelling in his chest, despite the gravity of the situation. "Then let's make sure we finish what we started." The strategy relied heavily on deception. A fleet of decoy ships would draw enemy fire away from the main strike force, allowing Marcus and his team to slip through undetected. Once inside, they would deploy the neural disruptor directly onto the command center's core. Timing was critical. A single misstep could doom the entire operation. As preparations neared completion, personal stakes came into sharp focus. Marcus spent hours alone in his quarters, staring at an old photograph of his squadron from before the war. Most of those faces were gone now, lost to battles fought in vain. Survivor's guilt gnawed at him, but he forced himself to stay focused. Failure wasn't an option, not when so much depended on their success. For Elena, the burden was different. She wrestled with ethical questions about wielding alien technology as a weapon. Could humanity truly control such power without becoming like the invaders they sought to defeat? These doubts kept her awake at night, but she reminded herself why they were doing this: to protect the fragile beauty of Earth and everything it represented. On the eve of the mission, Marcus visited Elena in the lab. She looked up from her work, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "Promise me something," she said softly. "If this works, don't let us forget who we are. Don't let revenge turn us into monsters." Marcus placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We're not fighting for revenge, Elena. We're fighting to survive and to rebuild." The next morning, the fleet launched. As the ship surged forward, leaving Earth's battered atmosphere behind, Marcus felt a strange mix of dread and determination. Ahead lay certain danger, but also the possibility of salvation. Earth's fate rested in their hands now, and as the void of space stretched endlessly before them, one truth became clear: humanity's greatest strength wasn't its weapons or technology. It was its refusal to give up, no matter how dire the odds. The journey to Jupiter was a tense and grueling affair. The fleet moved in silence, engines running at minimal power to avoid detection. Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Aegis, his eyes fixed on the distant glow of Jupiter's massive storms. Somewhere beyond those swirling clouds lay the Vorthic command center, a fortress bristling with weapons and swarming with enemy ships. It loomed like a lion waiting to pounce. "Decoys are ready," reported Lieutenant Harris, his voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. "They'll launch on your mark." Marcus nodded, gripping the railing tightly. "Signal the fleet. Let's get this done." With a flicker of light, the decoy ships detached from the main group and surged ahead, emitting false signals designed to mimic human life signs and energy signatures. Almost instantly, the Vorthik responded. Swarms of drones peeled off from their defensive formations, converging on the decoys like predators sensing prey. Explosions lit up the void as the decoys were obliterated one by one, but they had served their purpose. The path forward was clear. Now or never, Marcus muttered under his breath. The strike team accelerated toward the command center, weaving through debris fields and dodging stray patrols. Inside the lead ship, Alina Vasquez monitored the neural disruptor weapon, her fingers flying across holographic controls. The device hummed softly, its alien components pulsing faintly as if alive. "We're close enough," she said, her voice tight with anxiety. "But we won't have much time once we deploy it. The Vorthik will adapt quickly." Marcus glanced back at her, his expression grim. "Then we make every second count." As they approached the command center, the sheer scale of the structure became apparent. It was a colossal sphere surrounded by layers of defensive satellites and automated turrets. Plasma bolts streaked past their ships, forcing them into evasive maneuvers. Pilots shouted updates over the comms link, their voices strained but resolute. "Watch your six," someone yelled as a Vorthik fighter closed in. Marcus banked sharply, firing a burst of plasma that sent the enemy spiraling away. His heart pounded as he realized how outnumbered they were. Every move felt like threading a needle while blindfolded, dangerous and unpredictable. Inside the flagship, Samara worked furiously to hack into the command center systems. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, bypassing firewalls and rerouting data streams. "I've got access," she exclaimed suddenly. "I can disable some of the outer defenses temporarily, but it won't last long." "Do it," Marcus ordered without hesitation. For a brief moment, the relentless barrage of enemy fire ceased, allowing the strike team to breach the inner perimeter. They docked with a section of the command center, donning magnetic boots and breaching rifles before stepping onto the alien surface. The interior was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Walls shimmered with shifting patterns, glowing faintly as though infused with energy. The air crackled with an eerie hum, and everywhere they looked, tendrils of organic material intertwined with metallic structures. "This place, it's part of the hive mind," Alina whispered, her voice tinged with awe and dread. Their objective lay at the core, a pulsating mass of alien tissue connected to countless neural pathways. Deploying the disruptor there would sever the connection between the Vorthik forces and their central control. But reaching it wouldn't be easy. Automated defenses activated the moment they entered, forcing them to fight their way deeper into the labyrinthine structure. Each step brought them closer to their goal, and closer to disaster. When they finally reached the core chamber, exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone. Alina knelt beside the disruptor, attaching cables to the alien tissue. "It's working," she said, relief breaking through her fatigue. "But it's unstable. We need to hold them off until it finishes." Marcus turned to his team, raising his weapon. "Then let's give her all the time she needs." Outside the chamber, the sound of approaching enemies grew louder. The battle wasn't over yet, but for the first time, humanity had a real chance to turn the tide. The core chamber was a maelstrom of chaos. Alina Vasquez worked feverishly, her hands trembling as she adjusted the neural disruptor settings. The device pulsed erratically, its alien components struggling to interface with the Vorthik hive mind. Around her, Marcus and his team formed a defensive perimeter, their weapons blazing as waves of Vorthik drones poured into the room. "Alina, how much longer?" Marcus shouted over the deafening roar of plasma fire. 30 seconds, she replied, sweat dripping from her brow. "Just hold them off." The team fought with everything they had, but the odds were overwhelming. The Vorthik seemed endless, their movements precise and relentless. Samira fired her weapon with steady determination, her young face hardened by the weight of the moment. "I'm out," one of the soldiers yelled, discarding his empty rifle. Marcus tossed him a spare energy cell without missing a beat. reload, and keep moving. Every second felt like an eternity. The air crackled with energy as bolts of plasma ricocheted off walls and equipment. The shimmering alien tissue around them writhed and spanned, reacting violently to the disruptor's interference. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the chamber into near darkness. "They're trying to shut us down," Elena warned, her voice rising in panic. "If they cut power to the disruptor, it's over." Samara sprang into action, pulling out her portable hacking device. She crouched beside a control panel embedded in the wall, her fingers flying across the keys. "I can reroute auxiliary power," she said, gritting her teeth, "but I'll need cover." Marcus nodded, shifting his position to shield her. "On me," he barked, unleashing a barrage of fire at the advancing drones. The sound of explosions echoed through the chamber as more enemies breached the entrance. Lieutenant Harris took a direct hit, collapsing to the ground. "No," Marcus roared, rushing to his side. But Harris pushed him away weakly. "Finish this," he rasped, clutching his wound. "For Earth." With tears in his eyes, Marcus returned to the fight, drawing strength from the sacrifice of his comrade. Finally, Samira let out a triumphant shout. "Power rerouted. It's holding." Elena exhaled sharply, her focus unwavering. 10 seconds. 5, 3. A massive Vorthic drone lunged toward her, its claws glinting menacingly. Before it could strike, Marcus tackled it to the ground, wrestling desperately to keep it at bay. "Now!" Elena screamed, slamming her palm onto the activation switch. The neural disruptor erupted in a blinding flash of light, sending shockwaves rippling through the chamber. The alien tissue convulsed violently, its glowing patterns dissolving into chaotic bursts of color. For a moment, the entire structure shuddered, threatening to collapse. Then, silence. The Vorthic drones froze mid-motion, their systems severed from the hive mind. One by one, they collapsed lifelessly to the floor. "It worked," Elena whispered, sinking to her knees in disbelief. "We actually did it." Marcus staggered to his feet, his body battered but alive. He looked around at the fallen enemies, and at the faces of his surviving teammates. Relief washed over him, but it was tinged with sorrow for those who hadn't made it. As the team regrouped, they realized the cost of their victory. The disruptor's activation had destabilized the command center itself, triggering a cascade of failures within its systems. Alarms blared ominously, warning of imminent structural collapse. "We need to get out of here. Now," Marcus ordered, helping Elena to her feet. They sprinted back toward their ship, dodging falling debris and collapsing corridors. Behind them, the command center began to disintegrate, chunks of alien metal breaking apart and drifting into space. When they finally reached the docking bay, the last remaining ship awaited them. Marcus ushered everyone aboard, taking one final look at the crumbling fortress before sealing the hatch. As the ship accelerated away, the command center imploded in a spectacular explosion, sending shockwaves rippling through the void. The Vorthic fleet beyond faltered, their once coordinated attacks devolving into disarray. Earth's defenders cheered, but Marcus remained somber. They had struck a critical blow, but the war wasn't over yet. Still, as he gazed at the receding wreckage, a flicker of hope ignited within him. Humanity had proven it could fight back, and if they could do that, they could survive anything. The victory at the Vorthic Command Center was a turning point, but it came at a staggering cost. Earth lay in ruins, its cities reduced to rubble, its oceans poisoned by alien energy discharges, and its skies still marred by ominous black voids that refused to dissipate. The initial euphoria of breaking the hive mind quickly gave way to the grim reality of survival. Humanity had won a battle, but rebuilding their shattered world would be an even greater challenge. Captain Marcus Kane returned to Earth with a heavy heart. The faces of those who hadn't made it haunted him, the brave souls who had given everything so others might live. As he stepped off the Aegis onto what remained of Edwards Air Force Base, he was greeted by crowds of survivors. Some cheered, holding up makeshift banners thanking the resistance for their sacrifice. Others simply stared, their eyes hollow with grief and exhaustion. "They're looking to you now," Alina Vasquez said quietly as she joined him. Her voice carried both pride and concern. "You've become a symbol of hope for all of us." Marcus shook his head, uncomfortable with the weight of expectation. "I didn't do this alone. None of us did. It's the people who kept fighting when everything seemed lost. They're the real heroes." Despite his humility, Marcus knew his role wasn't over. While scientists like Elena worked tirelessly to stabilize Earth's atmosphere and repair damaged ecosystems, ordinary citizens rallied around leaders like Marcus to rebuild communities. Survivors banded together, pooling resources and skills to create new settlements amid the wreckage. In one such settlement outside Chicago, a teenager named Samira continued her work as a hacker-turned-engineer. She had earned a reputation for salvaging alien tech and repurposing it to help humanity recover. From water purification systems powered by Vorthic energy cells to communication devices built from scavenged drone parts, her innovations became lifelines for struggling populations. But not everyone shared the same vision for the future. Tensions simmered between factions within Earth's global government. General Thompson, embittered by the losses suffered during the war, pushed for aggressive expansion into space, arguing that humanity needed to establish colonies elsewhere before another alien threat emerged. "We can't just sit here waiting for the next attack," he growled during a heated council meeting. "We need to take the fight to them before they come back." Elena stood firm against him, her voice calm but resolute. "Colonization isn't the answer. Not yet. We barely survived this invasion. If we rush into something we're not ready for, we'll only repeat our mistakes." Her words struck a chord with many, including Marcus, who spoke up in support. "Earth is our home. Let's focus on healing it first. Then we can think about what comes next." The debate highlighted a deeper divide, a struggle between fear and hope. For some, the scars of war bred paranoia and mistrust. For others, the victory over the Vorthic inspired resilience and unity. Amidst these challenges, small victories began to emerge. Farmers coaxed life back into barren soil using bioengineered crops developed from alien samples. Engineers restored power grids using hybrid technology, lighting up darkened cities once more. Children played in parks reclaimed from ash and debris, laughter echoing through streets that had known only silence for too long. Yet, even as progress unfolded, reminders of the war lingered. Strange signals began emanating from the outer edges of the solar system, faint but unmistakable. Elena detected patterns suggesting remnants of the Vorthic fleet regrouping. And worse, other alien civilizations taking notice of Earth's unexpected triumph. "What does it mean?" Marcus asked one evening as they reviewed the data together. Elena sighed, her expression troubled. "It means we're not alone out there. And not everyone will see us as friends." For now, though, humanity focused on rebuilding. They had proven they could stand against impossible odds. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as survivors, as fighters, and as dreamers determined to reclaim their place among the stars. The scars of war were still fresh, but humanity pressed forward with cautious optimism. Earth was slowly healing. Cities rose from ashes, crops grew in revitalized soil, and children once again filled schools with laughter. Yet beneath this fragile renewal, shadows loomed. Strange signals from deep space grew stronger, their patterns too deliberate to be natural. Elena Vasquez spent countless nights analyzing the data, her unease growing with each new discovery. "They're not random bursts," she explained during a meeting with Marcus and other leaders. "These are communications, encrypted messages being sent between distant points in the solar system." Marcus frowned, leaning over the holographic display of the solar system. Red dots marked locations where the signals originated, some near Jupiter's orbit, others farther out beyond Neptune. "Could it be remnants of the Vorthic?" he asked, his voice low. Elena hesitated before answering. "It's possible. But there's something else. These frequencies don't match anything we've seen from the Vorthik before. It's like they're using a different language, or maybe even a different species entirely. The implication sent chills through the room. Humanity had fought one alien invasion and barely survived. The thought of facing another adversary, especially one potentially more advanced than the Vorthik, was almost unbearable. General Thompson seized the moment to push his agenda. "This is why we need to act now," he insisted, slamming his fist on the table. "We should send reconnaissance ships to investigate, and if necessary, strike first." "No," Elena countered sharply. "Rushing in blind is what got us into trouble last time. We need to gather intelligence, understand who or what we're dealing with before making any moves." Her argument carried weight, but uncertainty lingered. To address the growing threat, the United Planetary Defense Initiative, UPDI, launched a diplomatic mission, a small envoy tasked with establishing contact with whatever entities were behind the signals. Among them was Samira, whose expertise in alien tech made her invaluable for decoding potential communications. "I'm scared," Samira admitted to Marcus the night before departure. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've faced worse. Just stay sharp and trust your instincts." The envoy departed aboard the Aegis, now retrofitted with advanced sensors and stealth technology. As they approached the source of the signals near Jupiter, tension gripped the crew. What they found defied imagination. An enormous alien vessel unlike anything they'd encountered before. Its surface shimmered with iridescent hues, shifting colors as though alive. "This isn't Vorthik," Elena whispered when images reached her lab back on Earth. Before the envoy could establish communication, the alien ship emitted a pulse of energy that disabled their systems. Panic erupted as the crew scrambled to restore power, but it was too late. The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving no trace behind. Back on Earth, fear spread quickly. Was this a warning? A prelude to another invasion? Or something else entirely? Elena stared at the empty screen, dread pooling in her chest. "They know we're here," she murmured, "and they're watching." Humanity had risen from the ashes once. Now, as new dangers emerged, the question remained: would they find allies among the stars, or only enemies? For Marcus, the answer seemed clear. "We've proven we can fight," he said to Elena. "But maybe it's time we learned how to talk." In the vastness of space, shadows gathered, and humanity stood ready, unsure whether peace or war awaited them next. The disappearance of the envoy sent shockwaves through Earth's fragile society. News of the mysterious alien vessel spread rapidly, reigniting fears of another invasion. Yet amidst the uncertainty, humanity chose not to retreat into despair. Instead, they prepared for peace, for diplomacy, and, if necessary, for war. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood at the forefront of this effort, her focus shifting from reverse engineering alien tech to understanding the intentions of unknown civilizations. In a historic address broadcast globally, she urged unity and caution. "We don't know who or what is out there," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But we do know one thing. We are stronger together. If we face hostility, we will defend ourselves. But if we find allies, we must be ready to extend our hand in friendship." Her words resonated deeply, inspiring hope even as defenses were fortified. Massive orbital stations equipped with advanced weaponry surrounded Earth, serving as both shields and symbols of defiance. The United Planetary Defense Initiative, UPDI, expanded its reach, establishing monitoring outposts across the solar system to detect potential threats early. Captain Marcus Kane became the face of humanity's resilience. Retired from active duty, he dedicated himself to mentoring young pilots and strategists, ensuring that future generations would inherit the skills needed to protect their world. His lectures often ended with a simple yet powerful message: "We fought not just to survive, but to thrive. Let's make sure we honor those who gave everything by building something worth fighting for." Meanwhile, Samira returned to Earth after narrowly escaping the alien encounter near Jupiter. Though shaken, she brought invaluable data about the enigmatic vessel, including fragments of its communication protocols. Working alongside Alina, she helped develop a universal translator capable of deciphering alien languages, a tool that could pave the way for meaningful contact. As months passed, humanity began to reclaim its place among the stars. Lunar colonies expanded, providing safe havens and research hubs far from Earth's surface. Mining operations resumed in the asteroid belt, supplying materials to rebuild infrastructure and fuel exploration missions. Slowly but surely, Earth transformed from a vulnerable planet into a formidable interstellar power. Yet challenges remained. Strange signals continued to emanate from deep space, hinting at civilizations far older and more advanced than humanity. Some advocated for preemptive strikes, while others pushed for cautious diplomacy. Debates raged within the UPDI, reflecting the tension between fear and hope. In an unprecedented move, Alina proposed sending a second diplomatic mission, this time unarmed and accompanied by cultural artifacts showcasing humanity's creativity, resilience, and diversity. Music, art, literature, and recordings of Earth's natural wonders were compiled into a digital archive designed to convey peace and goodwill. "If they're watching us," she argued, "let's show them who we really are, not just survivors, but dreamers." Marcus supported the initiative wholeheartedly. "War is inevitable only if we let it be," he told Alina privately. "Maybe this time, we can rewrite the rules." The mission launched aboard the Aegis, now adorned with symbols representing every nation and culture on Earth. As it ventured into the unknown, millions watched live broadcasts, holding their breath as the ship approached the edge of the solar system. When the first response finally came, a brief but clear transmission acknowledging receipt of humanity's message, a wave of relief swept across the globe. It wasn't an alliance, nor was it an ultimatum. It was a start. Alina delivered a stirring speech at the UPDI's inaugural summit, urging unity not just among humans, but also with any peaceful extraterrestrial races. "We faced extinction and emerged stronger," she declared. "Now, let's step boldly into the cosmos, not as conquerors, but as explorers, learners, and builders of bridges." As the camera panned outward to reveal countless stars shimmering in the void, humanity looked to the future with cautious optimism. They had proven they could endure. Now they would discover what lay beyond survival, and whether the universe held friends, foes, or untold possibilities waiting to be uncovered. For the first time in history, Earth was no longer just a target. It was a beacon, a testament to courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding spirit of life itself.